Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. This is episode 11. I am one of your hosts, Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm the other host, Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
And we've got another fun, exciting... I'm actually really excited about this episode.
Double ones.
You know why? Yep, double ones is cool, mostly because you get to do a lot of talking. Oh, I like that. I'm excited.
It's going to bore everybody else. Every time I talk, I go for like 20 minutes about a subject 3 people care about.
Yeah, but I get so much work done while you're talking. That's awesome. So, episode 11. Episode 10 was awesome. Thanks for everybody who's listened. I know we forgot to give away the car. So hopefully by the end of this episode, we will remember.
I hope so.
I mean, how do you forget something like that?
It's an old school Firebird.
It was really funny. I got a message from a friend on Discord saying, so who won it? I was like, oh, yeah, we forgot to draw it. It's coming up. Keep entering.
Yes, that's right. Keep applying in the method that we didn't discuss.
That's right. It's coming up, I'm sure. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Well. How are you?
I'm awesome. Before we get into... I don't care at all. I do care, but I don't want to forget this. So before we get into the whole, chatting about our builds, I briefly mentioned to you that I was thinking about you today when I got out of the shower, which was a little awkward.
Nah,
but
people do it all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's followed by just like incontrollable sickness. But I don't know why. It was for some reason in my head about, just our initial chat, because we haven't actually had a whole lot of time this week to talk. Typically, we do play quite a lot through the week, and we're on Discord and we're hanging out quite a bit. This week's just been really busy, but I was going over the whole, where we introduce ourselves, and for some reason in my head, I had this idea of I could never call you by your game name. You know how some people have, people have game names where it's not terrible. And in my head, I was going, how could I ever say, and this is Wrecker of Days? I don't know why, but it came into my head that I don't think I could ever say. Maybe Wad. I know you like that.
Right? Okay, Wrecker of Days I used to be Try Night Party, and I'm not going to say why I was Try Night Party. Do you remember why?
Yeah, of course I know why.
Well,
hit triple net.
Yeah, I went through a few variations.
There were a few of them, yeah.
But anyway, I got really tired of Try Night Party. I was looking for something super awesome, and when Justin and I would play games back before even like we could find a decent type of co-op game that we could do couch co-op together, we would just take turns at some sweet RPGs. Like we would be playing Fallout 3 and we would just take turns like an hour on, hour off. And we'd, Justin would play for an hour and he'd level our character, make whatever choices he wanted. And it'd always be the opposite way that I would want to play. And then I'd come in and I'd play for an hour. But we'd always name our characters in a way like Wrecker of Days, something that would, it was just our goal in every game that you could actually RPG in dialogue and stuff. It was just our goal to just wreck people's days. So I ended up asking him, and it was all right if I could just take it. But I probably, even though I really like it, because I like to be quite helpful in games. Like, I think, let's say, like I'm playing Dark Souls and you get invaded by somebody and their gamer tag's Wrecker of Days.
It's terrifying.
Awesome. Oh, it's so cool. So cool. But then, like, imagine like you're looking for help and the summon sign on the ground is Wrecker of Days. It's kind of ironic. So I thought it'd be kind of fun, and I'm glad and thank you for letting me use it. I probably, though, would have had second thoughts. I probably wouldn't have done it if I realized the acronym was WAD.
What's wrong with WAD?
It sounds like a piece of snot.
It's like fitting.
I'm snorking up some WAD. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but I get referenced a lot, and I don't mind.
People call you WAD?
Oh, I get wadded all the time. Yeah. But I think of snot when I hear WAD. Hopefully nobody else does.
I think everyone else must be thinking Wrecker of Days, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Wait, anyway, so
next time I call and maybe I'll like get a hold of your wife or something and be like, hey, what's up? Is Tags there?
I feel like she would know, sadly. Now she would laugh at you uncontrollably.
You don't think she would just
No, I don't think so. But boy, she would not let me live that down. Yeah. I feel like your wife would probably be the same. In fact, I feel like she would just start laughing right off the bat if I said I'm looking for Wrecker of Days, please. Mostly because she'd be like, yeah, Wrecker of
Yeah.
all my days. Anyway.
True. She's got
Okay,
a wicked
so
gamer tag though.
let's yeah, I don't think you want to get in that though.
No.
Okay, so let's go into this week. How's your POE been, your POE? Seeing that
Oh,
it's not, I can't call it Path of Exile if you're not Wrecker of Days. So
that's right.
Wad, how was POE?
Well, how do you shorten tags?
I got nothing
You
for you, man.
oh, no, good for you. See, that was a well thought out one. Good. I've actually been playing Filter. Want to talk about it? Huh? Three people who love filters. I've actually been trying to make a filter over the past couple weeks. I've been trying to make a filter that would be extremely easy to edit every new league when POE comes out with new content.
Mhm.
But I've been trying to make a filter for everybody, not just for my guides. And the filters that I have available right now, or prior to a few days ago, were only relevant for my guides. It would exclude any type of gear that none of my guides would bother using. So I spent the last couple weeks really trying to hone in, and I would like to thank you publicly. When Justin and I game, and if I'm on console and he's on PC, we just hook up on Discord and we're talking while we play individual platforms. I know Justin doesn't sign on just to answer filter questions, but it's like the second he signs on, I'm always like, so in a filter, do you want really loud sounds lots or only for the crazy epic stuff? How often do you want those crazy visual effects shining up into the sky? Do you like the way that this looks or do you like the way and I just bombard tags. Never heard of this Justin guy. Just bombard tags with questions about filters and he very patiently on a regular basis, it's like he answers like that's what he signed in to talk about and he's
Well, they're
excited.
mostly just yes or no questions. They're
Right, but
pretty
you do.
easy.
You're very kind and you're very patient, and I appreciate it. So
I know what
anyway,
happens if I don't answer you.
it works its way into the grocery store. But
Right.
but no, so I've been harassing Justin for 2 weeks, and I almost wasted 2 weeks, but it hopefully I remember why my filters are this way. So I was trying to make a progressive filter where things naturally on their own by certain item levels would start like things would start getting more strict, you know what I mean? Only the best items would show up by the end. But I started thinking, and you helped remind me of this, was people have very different preferences for when they want their filter to be strict. Right.
Sure.
Sometimes they're playing solo self-found and they want the filter to be strict a lot later in their gameplay. Whereas some people, like normally for yourself when you're not doing solo self-found, basically by the time you're mapping, you're just okay. Screw it. I want a really strict filter because I'm buying all my gear.
Yep.
And so because I started you reminded me that there's quite a variety of different methods. Didn't really make sense for me to have a naturally one way regressing system that naturally filtered everything out slowly. So I went back to my old system of having like kind of like a starting off filter and then a strict filter and then the strict filter with no low currency. And so it really simplified it a lot, but I made a filter for everybody that accommodates all top gear, not just for my guide specific stuff. And then I'm using that exact same new style of how I've organized it, and I'm going to revamp my guide specific ones. So gameplay, I probably have about 2 hours in, but it was only to test my filter.
So actually, gameplay wise, I was reading some comments from people that were just getting back to us on different formats and saying hi. And I saw some people that were congratulating you and saying they're excited that you're back into PC play. So why don't you talk directly to those people?
Well, I would like to blame Justin for this. I didn't play PC since our previous podcast, and
In
it was
fact, you
because
stop.
I did. I just completely stopped, and it's because I am Justin teased in episode 10. Oh, and just in case you don't know who Justin, and that's the tags guy that I'm talking to. Tags teased in episode 10 that there's an epilogue change as you progress in storyline. And I
Right.
haven't done that yet, so that was a greater tease for me than trying to figure out my bow build.
So the interesting thing with you trying to put the blame on me is that this week you didn't do anything to try and progress towards that epilogue change. So
Oh, no,
you're
no, no, no. I did in standard on console with my already existing builds, but I also used it to test my filters.
yeah, I don't know about that.
Hey, what? I'm finally in like the latter half. I have 16 watchstones. I think I just got 17 tonight before a thingy thing.
But you've officially quit PC twice already in this league.
Yeah, well, isn't that the way you're supposed to retire? You retire and then you have second thoughts and you come back, right? But you don't come back for the Green Bay Packers, you come back for the Minnesota Vikings and then you retire again.
I don't think you can count that as coming back, Tyler. You get to level 2. You get to level 2 by the time you reach the very first zone.
Well, come on. Come on.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm still having a lot of fun. And my filters are basically done. I'm at the point now in Filterland where like I know exactly what it's going to look like with like just looking at a filter. I know exactly what it's going to look like and I know exactly the order it should be in and I almost don't need to double check it. I just put it in a debugger online just to make sure I didn't accidentally screw up. Like actually typed an item base wrong or a class wrong or had no space between quotations or something grammatical in code land. But besides that, I'm getting pretty comfortable with it. I quite like it. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I have a big smile on my face, semi laughing right now at this idea in my head that I want to say, is your filter talk as dry as the end of this podcast might be? Anyway,
it was a good video and Ivan was put in a tough spot.
No, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. How's your build? Talk about your build.
Yeah, my build is good. I'm actually one more thing that I wanted to reference about you in console that is a good thing is that I did see people commenting too, saying like, I'm glad that you play console and thanks for, talking about console, which is cool because there's not a whole lot of people that talk about console when it comes to Path of Exile typically, just because I would say the majority of the player base is PC based. And I also appreciate that the person who made that one comment, who it made me laugh and smile at his comment, understood that we're actually not dicks to each other. Like we both understand that we're joking. We've been friends for like way too long. We're not offending each other. So just if you think we are, calm your tits. It's fine.
Yeah, calm your tits. No, it does sound like we hate each other, and I really do hate Justin. If anyone else would offer their friendship to me, I would take it and bail on Justin and
Oh man, if I had another friend that played Path of Exile,
I know
I'd be out.
I know. There's millions of people that play POE, and for some reason, we're like the only two around. Yeah. Anyway,
my build's
since what, like early '90s, and it's 2020. Like we're talking what, 92?
I think we're like at least 18 years old right now.
Oh my goodness, that's like 18 years too many.
Anyway, so my build's been good. There hasn't been a whole lot of change to it, only because this week has been really real life busy. So I as well haven't had a ton of time to play, but I also haven't built a filter. So when I did get on to play, I actually played the game. It's just progressing.
Do you need me to make you a filter?
No, this one guy makes like 6 really easy filters.
Never heard of him.
Hey, that's the start of his name. Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. But it's just, it kind of is, you're at a point once you beat Cyrus of just progressing the Watchstone, I'm just trying to fill the Atlas. I'm still totally into this league. I'm really enjoying it. I have weird goals for myself with regards to the challenges this league. So no, it's
go on.
Well, I really want that portal. And this league, I feel like the challenges are actually reasonable.
I really wanted last league's portal. I should have played league because I bought the Bane Lynch support pack and they had the portal at 24 challenges was perfect for the Bane Lynch support pack. And there's nothing in the store that really goes well with the Bane Lynch. So I was really
They had a portal at only 24?
Yeah, it was the second one. Oh, and I wanted that.
Well, you'll be able to, I think, buy it soon. I don't think I've ever seen a portal at 24. That's pretty sweet. If so, I think this one's at 36, but at least this league, it feels like the challenges are reasonable. They're not like way, way out there and super difficult to do. So, build's been fine though. So they had an announcement a couple days ago.
While we're on the subject.
Yeah, for that they're celebrating 7 years since open beta. Which is really cool. So do you remember when you started playing? I think it was 2014, right? I think we have that in our notes or something.
I have a very embarrassing part of my PoE history is maybe it was even like right close to open beta or just after it got released. You said there was this game that I would love and I tried it and for some reason I didn't keep playing it. And I'm so bummed that I'm one of those people that didn't start playing in the ones. I started playing in the early twos.
Okay, yeah, I do remember trying to get you into it because I started in 2012. I think it
Yeah.
was still closed beta, and I got talked into it by an online friend who I'd played tons of games with, and he had kind of mentioned, hey, this game came out, and so I started playing in closed beta. And I do remember talking to you. I feel like it was right after it came into open beta because you were like, I'm not paying for that game. And so I
That's
think
right.
as open beta came out, you did try it, and it didn't last. And we still have some friends, like we have a friend Josh who he's tried it, and even my brother, he's tried it, and I always wonder, like, what is wrong with you?
It's
Why are
perfect.
you? I don't get why you don't play it more. It's just weird to me.
Yeah. And I'm really disappointed. I have no idea what didn't catch on. I don't know what I was looking for at the time. I think I really liked Torchlight at the time.
No, we weren't at Torchlight. No, no, no. Torchlight came way later when we actually started playing it. Pretty sure.
I have no idea what else I would have been played. Maybe that was back when I only played like sports games and
Yeah, you're
Splinter
probably into
Cell.
like Madden NHL, and you're like, no,
Yeah, and then
it's not made
Splinter
by
Cell. Those
EA.
sneaky games were really good then, right? Until
Uh huh.
Ubisoft went crazy and made
It's
Blacklist.
if it's not an EA game, I don't play it. But anyway, that's pretty cool. 7 years since open beta.
Yeah, very
And
cool.
I was thinking about that when they post. I think they tweeted it when I saw it. Which I will say, I actually really like Twitter. And now this is really, I know people are probably listening. Like, did he just say that? Uh, it's so easy. I never really got big into Twitter, but if I was to use a social media platform primarily, that would be it, because you can just type something and then walk away. I don't have to take a picture. I don't have to read a response. And if somebody wants to respond, they just, I don't know, it just adds you and you see it. It's just, I've really liked, and we've had people messaging. It's so simple. We had the guy who won our $60 giveaway. Yeah, it's easy. I was just messaging him. We were just chatting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like it. Anyway, they tweeted on it when it came out, or that they announced the 7 years. And I was thinking to myself, I can't think of many games that have lasting power like Path of Exile,
Hmm.
where you're 7 years from an open beta. So it's, it had been around before that. And really, there wasn't a huge change between. There was obviously a change when they went to open beta, and then there was definitely a big change very shortly after open beta. But uh, 7 years, like a game that's been out for 7 years from open beta status, that has just got this massive following that has progressively just gotten bigger. It's not shrunk in size,
Yeah.
especially because they brought in leagues, which was, if leagues didn't exist, I feel like Path of Exile would have fizzled, because I don't know how people like you play standard
Yeah.
all the, you know what I mean? I just think in general most players are the same thinking to some degree as me, where you need the league to like reinvigorate that love for Path of Exile, because it's all new, it's fresh, it's not just
Well, they found a way to make players come back every 3 months.
right.
Like you and I love Dark Souls. You and I love Dragon's Dogma. We love a lot of other games. We love like what's that? Age of Empires, or I mean, if they still had the license, Battle for Middle Earth. Like we would go back
Yeah.
and play and play and play. But some of these games, like Stellaris, it's been like a year and a half, right? And they've found a way to bring people back every 3 months. Now, in terms of bugs and stuff, some of us probably wish it was every 4 months, but it's every 3 months and it's totally free. It's not even like you have the obligation of playing like you would WoW or something like that, World of Warcraft, because you have a subscription you're signing in to do stuff or your dailies. Like, and they even with dailies made it more convenient for us and more risky for them. Like with dailies, the way like the sorry, I'm by dailies with PoE for those of you who are new, I'm referring to
Old
like the
ones.
master missions, right? And now you can assign them to your map and you can do them in any order anytime you want. But it used to be that they didn't stack. And it used to be that you would have to sign in every day, therefore your dailies, and you would have to do each one and hope that it was some sort of assignment that your character, your build could do properly. And when you get rid of dailies, you risk people not coming back often to care about those types of upgrades. And they made it more consumer friendly, and it's even more popular. I love it. I absolutely love what they're doing. I didn't
Yeah,
mean to
it's
hijack that.
cool. No, that's cool. I liked it. Was just it was cool seeing their post about it. I love the fact that they're overly and super proud of it. I think they're just one of the coolest development companies ever, and it's just fun seeing some of the old stuff. They put the trailer from the open beta when it was released, and
Oh yeah,
it's
that was cool. Yeah.
the thread that they put up for it was really cool. So anyway, I just would say congrats to them. Like that,
Yes.
they've really done an awesome job, and
Yes.
7 years is it's a long time.
It is. It is.
2012. Yeah, and it just cracks me up that I've been playing it for that long, and now my kid plays it.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh
I can't think of any other games that are like that.
yeah. Well, think of it. I mean, this might make you feel really old, but think of PoE now. PoE 2 is coming out when it's going to be 7, maybe 8 years old, right? How much longer is PoE 2 going to last? Like,
Yeah.
all our kids are going to play it. That's so
Yeah, it's pretty
cool.
cool.
That's so cool. Yeah. They to celebrate. Well, no, it wasn't to celebrate. It was just they just came out with some new skins. But you know me, I'm a minion guy, and
Mm.
I I would have. Oh man, I know it doesn't really match, and it was highly criticized, even though it looks really cool. But what was that? They had the mystery box where it was kind of like carnival and clowny and
Yeah,
mystical.
that
Right?
was
It was
last league, I think.
really. I think so. I think so, and it was really colorful. Anyway, yeah, it was for 3.8, which was the minion
Yep.
improvement league, and so I was really hoping they were going to come out with some minion stuff. Like if they came out with clown zombies, even if they were like the terrifying, creepy kind. Oh, that would have been so cool.
I don't know if you're allowed to say it, but I wanted midget clowns or little people clowns. That's what I wanted. I wanted to just have a billion of them running around me.
Like zombies, mean, or just
Yeah,
anything?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I wanted to apply it to everything and just be like, yeah, just have
yeah.
these a
Instead of
ton.
Monte Grasp, which increases the size of zombies,
Yeah,
just
make
have a
them itty bitty and
skin
just
that
like running all over the place.
I They finally came out with skeleton skins again. Like I think it's the only, I don't know. They really went on the Stygian look for a bit for a lot of other minions. Skeletons, I've always had the old school statues, and that happened even, I don't know, they probably had that since 2014. They
Mhm.
added, what they call the mannequin skins for skeletons, and it's only for skeletons. And it looks really cool when you're zoomed in, but when you're zoomed out, they look like enemies.
Doesn't it seem weird that they picked the skeleton to do the first skin for?
For the mannequin?
Well, for anything that actually changes the look of it, like there's a skin for the zombie. I had all the what are the
Celestial.
spectral celestial ones, but they never changed the actual model. You know what I mean? Like the actual look of them, the shape of them was the same. It seems weird to me to pick one of the skills that is way less often used
Hmm.
as the first one to introduce a like legitimate skin change for. Why not do zombies? Everybody who plays minions plays zombies.
That's true, but it is lacking in the diversity department.
What is?
Skeletons. You don't have a lot of options.
Well, you have as many for skeletons as you do zombies, right? There's like celestial and there's like what? Nothing.
That's it. Yeah. But anyway, they came out with it, and it looks pretty cool. But when it's zoomed out, they just look like enemies. And so for me, I have all my ally health bars on display when I'm playing, so I can see them all over the map. And I mean, it doesn't look nice, but that's how I like to see how everybody's living and dying. If you didn't have that, if I didn't have that on, they would just look like normal enemies to me, and I'd probably be writing a bug report saying nobody's dying around me. What's going on? Anyway, that was it. And great news. 3.2, no, 3.9.2D came out for console, which includes C, and I'm getting all those fantastic things you were talking about last episode. I'm dealing with it, and it's fantastic, and I love it.
Are we referring to a lot of the Atlas changes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
All
on
those
console now?
amazing quality of life things that we talked about last episode, I've had the ability to play with, and oh my goodness, do I love it. It is fantastic.
In the last episode, I remember you saying that this was going to be a especially big deal for console players. Did you find that? Did you find that the changes to the Atlas were so? I was trying to figure out. I think it was because I was listening back to the episode, and I was trying to think to myself. I wonder what's so much better on console with C. You know, with the Atlas change, are obviously amazing. We talked about this last episode. What my favorite patch for sure, probably will be for the whole league. But did you find it as exciting for the console as you were hoping it would be, and as beneficial, I guess?
Uh, Almost, yes. There's a lot less screen hopping with console. When you still have the search function, and with the search function on console, it's like typing with a Nintendo. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
using your D-pad on an on-screen. I mean, unless you're using. I mean, I have an Xbox. I don't know what it's like for PlayStation, but the Xbox has an Xbox app on your phone, so you can connect it, and then you can type on your phone if you want to for all the search features you're using on your
How
screen.
can you not talk to a console yet and be like, Xbox type Exalted?
Well, you know what? They had that, and for some reason, everybody kicked the crap out of that Connect. My wife and I, we haven't plugged in our Connect in forever, and we were just talking about. I miss talking. I miss
Yeah, but
telling
you
the
could never
Xbox
talk in the game. Like you couldn't have it type for you with
certain
talk.
games. Certain games you could.
You're a liar.
Well, of course you could.
What?
I
Which
don't
game
know.
could you have it type out for you?
They had games that you would make for it, and then when Xbox stopped guaranteeing that the Connect was going to be guaranteed sold with every console, then that went by the wayside. Not many people played it, didn't care. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Get out of here. Screen hopping is a lot better. I still have to search, right? Like when I'm going into search for a region, I still have to go into my map stash tab and search for, I forget what it's called, but like the
Sure.
region that starts with HAEW. So I'll go in there. But then the big issue before was if I forgot, like, oh shoot, was that Malediction 13 or 15? Oh man, what was Tower again? Was it which one was it? So it's a lot easier now because now I can see the bonuses. Now I can see the I forget. There's a list of a few things that say incomplete or complete, and it tells you the region. So because I forget everything all the time, it definitely helps me. I only have to go to the Atlas one time as
Right.
opposed to needing to go four times just to make sure that I'm double checking my work. I wasted quite a few maps prior because I thought I was doing them on the right tier and it wasn't, and it was just too irritating to go back. So this has been quite helpful. You still have to search the map tab like you normally would, but it's a lot more helpful for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be like bad or worse. I was just curious if it was as, because in my head I thought I feel like on console the thing that would drive me craziest is the inability to type like efficiently.
Yeah, you definitely keep them short. And so if you're not using your phone for your typing, it can be there's certain things you just cut out or you risk
Hmm.
because you're impatient. Um,
Sure.
Kind of like they're when they come out with POE for mobile, there's a whole bunch of stuff they've cut to make it convenient. And they do the same with console, but there's only so much you can change because it's a lot closer to PC, the PC version of the game than mobile would be to anything.
Hmm.
So anyway, it's no, it's a very very good update. I find that I save a lot of time. I'm all of a sudden in maps as opposed to spending 5 minutes between maps just double checking everything. I
Hmm.
find the only other time I really access the Atlas is a complaint that you had in a prior episode of not being able to see what master missions I have available.
Right.
So I go into the Atlas and I'm like, wait, why am I in the Atlas? I already know what map I have. So then I exit the Atlas. And then I'm like, oh, right, I'm not going to the thing. So now I have to go back into the Atlas to see, oh, okay, these are the ones I have red available. Oh, shoot, I'm doing a yellow one. Okay, here, this is what I'm doing. So anyway, but it's all good. It's all good. So I'm
I'm still
excited.
hoping they'll add master missions to Xana, or not to Xana, sorry, to the map device.
I hope so. I hope so.
I will buy their most expensive supporter pack when they do that. If they make that a purchasable thing, oh, they should make that a purchasable thing. Give me a map device that has all the master missions in there. I would buy it.
So I used to work at Electronic Arts for I don't know how long was that. Not Justin Tex. How long was that Tex? Like
I don't remember. It was a
5
while.
years, 7 years, something like that. And before I worked at EA, I loved video games. Like not the same games that I love now. Like as I mentioned, I loved sports games and I loved like oh my goodness, Armada from the Dreamcast. That was one of my favorite games of all time. I wish they could still make that. That wasn't an EA game. And like Splinter Cell, I love sneaking around, taking my time, watching the puzzles figure themselves out. Then I worked at EA and I started off in QA and that ruined video games for me. In everything I see and do, I'm like, especially, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not. When you're young and you sign a non-disclosure agreement, you're just signing. You're like, yeah, I'm never going to talk about that. And then, of course, it's 20 years later, and then you're getting sued like crazy. But like when you start seeing the apathy or the quick, like the stuff that they're shipping, like just make the deadline, just make the deadline. When you start seeing what companies are all about, especially a company that's like pumping out the exact same game every year, like a sports game, you see some of the bugs that they're shipping, and you see some of the stuff, like all the testing you put into it, and then here's this, and if you do this, it's really easy to do, it's going to 100% crash the game, the reproduction rate's 100%. I remember some anyway, it ruined video games for me because I see bugs everywhere, and I have to do it's very hard for me to not write a bug report on every single thing I see, and so I do my very best not to. But if one's driving,
I'm just going to interrupt you. If anyone ever in the future from GGG support hears this, realize that he just said he used to or would want to write one for everything that he sees. So what you're getting from him, he's restrained.
And I do write.
I feel like you're the most common poster.
Not common bug report poster. There's a few that drive me nuts. Like one I've had pending for forever, and I used to bump it every single like day and a half, whatever it was, bump. And it's that when you use Val skeletons, it'll never, ever select, like, because it's supposed to be a random number. Maybe it'll be 25, maybe it'll be 29. And let's say 29 is your max amount of skeletons Val skeletons can summon. It'll never choose the max. It'll actually always be the same amount. And it's always, at this point anyway, I haven't even looked into it in maybe a league or two, but it would always be like 2 under your maximum amount. It was never varied, it would never randomize, and it would never be the maximum that you could have. Anyway, but so I started to write, like I'm dealing with my filters, right? And so I'm going through and I'm trying to test my filters in game, and all of a sudden I'm seeing like, oh my goodness, I can't select all of my filters. Like I can only select 4 of my filters. There's supposed to be 6 of them, right? 3 for everybody, and then 3 for just the guides. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to test this? I can't like reorganize my filters on the website. Like there's not an ability to do that. So how am I supposed to get these filters on my list? I'm like, oh shoot, I've been putting in all this work, and maybe there's a filter glitch in list. So I start backing up my filters just in case, like, oh yeah, we found a fix. Unfortunately, deleted all your filters. Sorry about that. And so I'm writing this bug report, right? Talking about like on console, the filter list doesn't show all followed filters. Going into detail, it takes me a while. And all of a sudden I can't send it. And then there's like this issue with tagging, even though I shouldn't have been able to. There was an issue with the website. So I actually had to email GGG support to post the bug instead of putting it on the forum, because I wanted the bug report to get posted. I wanted them to know about it. And then, but I couldn't post it. So I sent it to GGG support. It ended up, so I was really embarrassed by it, and I sent them an email right away as soon as I realized it. But I post everything on my PC account on the website, and you auto follow everything when you create the content. But I had completely forgotten that I had to sign in with my Xbox account on the Path of Exile website and manually follow all of my stuff. So this huge bug report that I did was just because I completely forgot to follow my own filters with my other account. And so I called and apologized, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I wrote that. I never already responded back and forth with them a couple times regarding it, saying that something was up. So I was really embarrassed by it. But because of my bug report that I emailed them with, they fixed the tagging issue that was preventing people from PMing and from uploading posts. So that was good. But I was really embarrassed. I sent a non-bug bug report, and that's really embarrassing for somebody who used to work at QA.
I think you told me I don't remember. You told me recently about it. It seems weird to me that you don't have the same account for all platforms. I assume there's something on there, but it's just weird to me.
Like maybe it's an Xbox and Sony permission thing. I don't know. It would be nice. I was actually thinking of moving all of my guides over to having my Xbox profile posting everything. But then when I started creating the filters with this new thing that they started in 3.9, I got so excited I posted them on my PC one, and so now I'm kind of stuck.
That's your primary one anyway. The console one's just to keep those console players out there happy.
Sure. All right. So anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to, because I'm sorry for wasting so much of their time, but they were very kind and professional. Nav, Sam, and Kane from GGG support. You guys were fantastic and very patient with my non-bug report. So thank you for your time.
I feel like your name is probably on a wall there now. Like most annoying wad.
Yeah. It's got like the no smoking symbol right over my picture.
No, it's not your picture. It's just WOD.
And they've all spat on it with their wads.
Yep, with their wads. Oh, that sounds dirty.
See, wad. Nah, it's all right. If you call me wad, you can keep calling me wad. That's fine.
So, Wad, did you pay much attention to the talent competition? I honestly didn't. I'm not for any other reason than just I don't know if it's laziness or I just didn't pay attention. I remember seeing a tweet about it because again, I'm really liking Twitter.
Hmm.
But they posted something about some of the like updates or most recent highlights or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
There are some freaking talented people out there,
Oh,
like really, really
yeah.
talented people. And I was scrolling through some of them, and they are I don't know, it's just crazy. Like the level of art, it just I am super jealous. There is somebody who made okay, I'm just actually looking at it now. I hadn't noticed this one. There was somebody who made the what is this? It says metamorph Kunst camera. Oh,
Okay, come on,
okay,
come
be
on
careful
now.
with that one. Anyway, wait, hey, listen, GGG posted it, but it's a metamorph metal band album. It's like an album cover.
Yeah.
Okay, I want that guy to draw
Our podcast picture.
our podcast title picture because we obviously need to change it. We just made that when we first started, and we have plans to make some new one. But his picture is incredible.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you saw it or not, but I'm gonna send it to you later.
Okay.
But it is it's so good. Kunst camera, he killed it.
There was a lot of really good ones, so we don't mean to
Oh,
offend
they're
people.
so
We're not
good.
shouting out, but imagine being even just working at GGG, let alone being one of the creators of the company in the game, and you're seeing people getting tattoos
Yeah,
of
it's
your game.
crazy.
Like, I love the game enough that if I was into tattoos, I totally would. And
What would
even
you
if
get?
there came a point, what would oh
This
goodness.
isn't even part of our thing, but that's a good
Oh, that's a
question.
good
What would you
question.
get?
So you know what? We're writing this question down, and every single person we interview on this podcast is getting that question.
Yeah, if you had to, is it a have to?
That's
Yeah,
right.
what Path of Exile tattoo would you get?
Oh, well, see, the one that I'm referring to, and it looks really nice, is somebody got an Exalted orb on, I think it's the forearm of each of their forearms, and it looks really cool. It's a lot more like hollow-eyed and a little bit more creepy, but it looks really, really good. I don't think I'd get an Exalt because I don't
Because you don't see them very often.
know. I had one drop
Oh,
today. I had one drop today, and it said, because I love my filters, it said in the exact font and the exact colors, exact size, exact volume, Exalted orb, exhilarating, and then he says his thing. It was awesome, and it was awesome. So I even dropped it again just so I could hear it. But I don't know what I would get. I would get something I use a lot. Oh, I have a mirror and you don't. Maybe I'd get a mirror.
like wisdom
Those are so
scrolls.
easy to get. I don't know what your problem is. Um,
I think they just give them out on console. I think the drop rate is increased.
just to hook people in.
That's right.
Yeah. By the way, never use it. You'll never get an item you can use it on. I don't know what I would get. What would you get?
I would get something more vague. I would get something that was sort of lore based or something that was I can't think of something right off the top of my head, but it would be something more that I could easily have where somebody would see it and it wouldn't be like very obviously Path of Exile, if that makes sense.
Waypoint.
Okay.
Right on your bum.
Yeah. It's like around your belly button or your nipple or something.
Yeah. Yeah, the nipple. That's a good one. Yeah.
Press here to
Right.
transport. Yeah, I would do something that was just less super obvious in Path of Exile, but I've actually thought about that before because I have tattoos, but I haven't nothing's ever struck me as something that I would be able to put on my body and show people and not be like, yeah, it's from a video game. Don't judge me.
I'm going to come back to you on that one. I'm going to think long and hard about that. Every single time I step out of the shower, I'll think of you and I'll try and reciprocate and I'll think about this tattoo thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to you next episode. So,
all right, make a
note. And I'm not gonna put it on our notes.
Oh, please! Like
you'll surprise every time.
It
I won't remember either. But anyway, the talent competition. These people are incredible. The people who have like done their submissions and stuff. You guys are killing it. Yeah. The stuff you can make is crazy. And Kunstkammer. if you ever hear this and you want to make a little bit of money designing a podcast
Oh,
cover,
don't tease with
hit us
money.
up.
Come on, come on.
We can't ask for free, you son
No,
of a
it's not
bee.
for free, but
I would pay for it.
you want a
His art is incredible.
free
What's the
package of
alternative?
pencil
I go on
crayons.
I go on Fiverr and like find some random person to draw it. No, we have an idea in our head. So yeah, if there are people out there that are into it, tweet us a Twitter us a tweet.
you speak you speak online way better than I do.
I'm a big social media guru.
Yeah, on the socials.
Tweet us the tweeters.
I need to work
What
on
is it?
my manly
For,
giggle.
Forever Exiled 82. Twit us.
So speaking of though talent, hideouts are something that some people like. You really appreciate people that can just put an insane amount. I don't get how some people can make their hideouts look this way. When I look at the content that I have and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a hideout. I basically move a tree over, I change what tree it looks like, and I'm like, yeah, that looks nice. And then I look at what some people post or what you download from other people, and I'm like, oh my goodness, is this the same game? And
Yeah, it's crazy.
DGG themselves posted, they interviewed and they interviewed and posted the interview, and they have tips on there for hideout creation. So if you're someone that actually likes to take the time and make your hideout, and you're going to spend an entire like 5-hour gaming session making a hideout, and that's something that you really like as much as I like filters, then I'd like to include that in the patch notes, the thread to that, because
Show notes.
in the show notes, right? Yeah, because the making a hideout can be pretty intimidating and exhausting just to look at. You don't even know where to start. So they had some pretty good tips in there for people that would like to do it but have no idea how to go about making it. So it was pretty
I'll
nice.
have to check it out. I didn't actually check that out, but I feel like it still wouldn't help me.
No, you're still gonna download.
Mainly because it takes a wicked amount of patience. First off, like that's one big problem. I don't feel like I have the time to do that. But also, there's way too many. I mean, we even talked about that in the last one.
Yeah.
There's just so many combinations of things, and
But that's exactly what Path of Exile is, which I think is awesome. They have that much variety in the aesthetics of the game, let alone in gameplay, right? Like how many support gems and active skill gems and the infinite amount of combinations that you can use, combining that with the infinite amount of mods that roll on weapons. Like, oh man, it's basically like that with hideouts too. But I don't know.
yeah, it fits for sure.
I absolutely love it. I had a tip though for new people. For those that haven't really been playing prior to this new end game, or even if you did, the wiki site isn't updated on it. So I just wanted to let people know, if you're someone that really wanted to get an Exalted tattoo because you just had your first Exalt drop and it was super exciting, even though you might not even know how to use it, there's a recipe where you can get Exalted shards. And after a certain amount of Exalted shards, just like any other type of shard, once you get enough, it turns into an Exalted orb like anything else. So it used to be that if you had an entire set of all Shaper influenced items or all Elder influenced items, an entire set would be like a sword, a one-handed sword, a shield, a helmet, chest, legs, or I mean, gloves and boots, and then amulet, belt, and 2 rings, right? Or instead of a sword and shield, it could be a bow without a quiver or a 2-handed weapon, right? So you'd need an entire set, and item level didn't matter for this recipe. But if you had an entire set and it had to be all the same influence, right? All Shaper or all Elder, you could trade that in for 2 or 4 Exalted shards. And 4 if all of them were un-ID'd, which I don't know many people that would un-ID them unless you're really rolling in dough. So for the most part, if they were all ID'd, then you would get 2 Exalted shards. And it's a slow process, but it's a way to eventually earn a few Exalted orbs if you know how to roll your mods. It's not updated on the wiki yet. All that to say is that recipe still exists for all of the new influences as well. So for the Hunter and Redeemer, what is it, Warlord, and the other guy, Crusader.
So you can also get the shards for those ones.
Yes, so you can still get the shards. One thing that I didn't, though, I did that for science today. I asked on Reddit because I really wanted to know and to be able to communicate that to people, because it wasn't on the wiki site at all. What I don't know, though, is that there are specific, there's not just Exalted orbs, but there's like a Hunter's Exalted orb, and there's
Right.
specific Exalted orbs. I don't know if those shards only go, if they go to a generic Exalted Orb or if they go to an influence specific Exalted Orb. I don't know that. I didn't ask that question. I forgot to, but I just want to let people know because it's not on the wiki. And as I mentioned in a previous podcast, it really seems like influence items drop a lot more. It's like you're guaranteed to get one while you're mapping in an influenced area, and you're guaranteed at least one or two while you're once you beat the boss. So throwing that out there.
I want to play that like rainbow noise right now. That's like the more you know.
You're gonna make my stomach hurt. You're making me laugh so much. There was another post I love. I see. So filter people, spreadsheet people. We love our stats. That's me, right?
I feel like you've hit like about 2% of the player base so far.
Oh, and this episode, we are going to see our numbers skyrocket because of this subject content. But I love it when GGG posts the stats for how many people are playing what ascendancy. I love those posts. And within that post, necromancers are decimating so many people, like a quarter of the player base in almost every single league, whether it's solo self-found standard, whether it's like hardcore league. It's almost 20 to 25% of all players are playing necromancer.
Yeah, it's even up to 30 in some.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then and it's not even like this in like 3.8, which was the minion league. It normally it's like the league, the ascendancy that's crushing is 12%. And then it drops down to 8%, 8%, 8%, 7%. But 20 to 25, 30%, it's crazy. And you know what I think it is? They've added so much to the core game now that you have to consider so much different type of content when you're making your build now. And we're going to get into stuff that we consider for making a build in a bit here. I'm really excited for that. But when you have so much content, like you were talking about how you hate Alva, right? And the time-based stuff. And it's just not there for every build. There's Blight, right? No, wait. Yeah, Blight was the most recent one, right? That was 3.8. Oh, and then there's Abyss, right? I always think it starts with a B. Abyss was where they come out from the ground. And for me, Blight gives such big rewards, such a nice variety of rewards too. It's not just one specific kind of league reward, except for oils, but those are huge. And so, but when Blight splits, like from that pulsing thing, when it splits in two different directions right off the bat in 180 degrees, you're screwing over 70% of your types of builds that you can make. No matter how efficient it is, the second you're splitting it and you have enemies coming from two totally different directions and you're actually protecting something, it's not like you're just in a game where you can like jump to this part of the map and then you come back to beat those enemies later. You're actually protecting something that's getting hit from range and from two directions, maybe three, right? Sometimes that blight spawns really close where people just the second they come out of their portal start shooting at it, even instead of going through the path. And I think because of Blight and the rewards that it gives, people are just sticking with minions, right? You can cover so much AoE with that content that it's your best all-around build.
I don't know that it's necessarily because of Blight. I think one of the benefits to Necromancer, even in this league with the nerfs, which obviously were not as big as we thought they might be, it's safe. It's a very safe way to play and to be able to push the content right now.
Yeah. I would agree for sure. It is definitely safe, but I can't think of another build that just by default, a vanilla version without fancy gear can actually do all content.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like you need very specific items to do a really good job increasing your damage if you're going with a big AoE. You'll need very specific or end game weapons to do well with that as you're progressing. But with minions, I mean, zombies, I'm thinking specifically, but there's a lot of different types of minions. With minions, you can crush Blight and all that other content really easily throughout your entire leveling process and throughout as you're improving through maps as well. It's going to be hard. I really hope they don't get hit. But I think one thing that would help, like you were mentioning, I mean, I don't think they'll ever get rid of it, but getting rid of the timed section of Alva, just having the temple as the temple, or I mean, the trials as the trials, but also having Blight not being able to split 180 from the Pulsey thing. I don't know what it's called, but from the Pulsey thing where you start.
I think the problem with that, though, is you have a blighted map, and that's exactly what it does. Right? A blighted map is literally, it just goes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, I mean, I know what you're talking about, like in the middle of a map. I'm totally with you. I absolutely hate when one has like 6 portals, and it completely changes like 3 or 4 different directions. It's very difficult.
Right from the beginning. Like if
Yeah.
you, even on a blighted map, if you had right from the policy thing, it goes out a guaranteed amount of distance so that you are at least guaranteed one choke point, then you still have to do tons of damage. You still have to be capable of jumping around a little bit to get those ranged people from over there. And then, you're trying to get this tower to cold or slow or fire, whatever it is. Like, you're still doing your jumping around. But when you remove a choke point right to your thing you're defending, I think you're just removing a ton of builds, which is, in my opinion, why Necros are so popular. But anyway, here or there, I just thought that was interesting that Necros are decimating the Bow League. And it's after Necros, well, I guess it was just specters and zombies, but actually they got a pretty hard but fair balance hit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I wanted to talk. We've been asked a lot about how we make builds or talking about different kinds of builds. And we've talked lots about the builds that we've been doing throughout this league, but Justin and I make builds very different, right? Like, let's say Justin and I are playing. I don't know who this Justin guy is. Tags. Let's say Tags and I are playing POE, and we've been playing together throughout the league, and then we're kind of getting to the point, like, we really like our characters, but we've been itching about something else. We get that itch for creating a new character all of a sudden. Tags is the kind of guy where he'll be like, "Hey, you want to make new characters?" And he's ready to go. He doesn't have a plan. He didn't do anything in path of building ahead of time or anything like that. He's ready to go. What skill? Well, what do you mean you want to start right now? Like, what skill are you going to use? I don't know. Well, what are you going to start with? I don't know. Like, he's the kind of guy where he can make. And now I mean, we've covered this. I hate Justin a lot,
but love Tags.
Right? I don't know who this Justin guy is, but I just, people like me really admire the people in PoE that can just on the fly make a build. It's not min-maxed. It's like their pathing isn't perfect. They probably wasted a couple nodes going here or there, but then they make this build that can just crush every single aspect of the game. And that's how Justin can make builds. For me, when Justin says, "Hey, you want to make a build?" I'm like, what do you mean? I need like 3 days to plan this. I need to know what skill I want to use. I need to know what all my supports are going to be. I have no idea where I'm starting on the tree, and why on earth would I rush choosing my ascendant? Like, I need a long time to prep a build, and Justin can do it on the fly. So anyway, we make builds very different. And so I want to ask just a few questions so everyone else can hear the kind of the differences of how 2 different types of people make their builds. I want to hear how Justin makes a build, the kind of stuff that goes through his mind.
Well, we'll go back and forth. We'll go back.
People don't want to know my stuff.
The thing is, you're going to ask your questions. I'm going to bounce those questions back at you because you may not like all my answers.
I've been talking so much. Nobody wants me. All right. If you were to make a new build right away, what's the first thing you think about? What's the first decision you make when deciding what kind of build?
So for me, it's not always the same. It depends on whether there's maybe some new skills that have come out. Maybe there's a new particular type of weapon or unique that came out. Sometimes there's a big change to an ascendancy. So like last league, I knew that Necro had been buffed by quite a bit. So I just went that route. I hadn't really planned ahead for what I was going to do. I think I remember joking to you when we started that I was just going to get every minion and see how it went.
Yeah.
So for me, it does change. It depends on if there's like a specific skill. Sometimes I'm just a little bit tired of playing a certain type of way, and I want to try something new. Maybe I want to go more spell based. Sometimes I just want to play like a big AOE. So for me, it typically, I don't always have a for sure direction. It usually changes each time where I'm going, it's not actually that often where I think of a specific item that I want to use.
Yeah.
That typically plays into either the ascendancy or the skill that I want to play with. Just because there's so many, and I love that part of it.
Yeah.
What about you? What's the first choice you tend to make?
I get excited. Like, I'm very limited in what I'm capable of playing. I need to play something that I can't aim specifically, because I like being able to play whatever build idea I have. I like being able to play it on PC and or console, not just both. But PC is a lot more difficult for me, so I make sure that I'm capable of playing it on PC, which means I can't specifically click on an enemy to make sure that I hit that enemy. And if I can't click that enemy, then I miss, or something doesn't happen. I can't do that. So I typically need AoEs, or something like minions where they auto attack, stuff like that. Things like like my bow builds require something like ballista totem support, so that I just place them and then they do all the aiming.
So when you first think of the idea of making a build or starting a new build, is it skill related then?
Almost always.
That's your
Yes.
right.
Sometimes it's mechanic based though. Like I really wanted to make a blocking build a while ago, and I loved the gladiator blocking. I find things like blocking and dodge pointless when you're only doing spell blocking or you're only doing attack blocking. And so when I was started reading through the gladiator after I got the blocking itch and I was reading through the gladiator, it was just absolutely perfect. And when it started giving bonuses to counterattack skills, those trigger skills like riposte and vengeance, just so good, right? Especially when you can increase your blocking to 79% across the board. And so I looked for a nice melee that did an AoE. And just at the right time, I think the league after I created the guide, they came out with Bladestorm. So my first iteration of it was Cyclone, and that was the league that they made Cyclone a channeling skill, which is very good timing. Um, and I love that Cyclone has a slower movement speed. Not a lot of people like that, but I do. And so Cyclone was really good, but then they came out with Bladestorm, and Bladestorm was really good because Bladestorm has the ability to, like, it's a big AoE, it's a 360, which is huge. You don't have to specifically click on an enemy, you just, wherever you're standing, hit the Bladestorm button and it does a big circle. But then it leaves, they're not considered dots, but those 3 storms that it can leave individually, they're basically like dots because they stay there for a little bit hitting enemies. So I look for skills like that, which there aren't too many of. There's a lot more spells that would be a lot more practical, but yeah, it's to scratch an itch, and I like to try and make mechanics work, like poison or block or CI.
So once you've picked your skill, then what would you say is your next focus? You've got, because for you tend to aim towards the skill first. What would you say is your next thought?
So then I try and look for an ascendancy that provides me with defense, right? I zone out a lot. I have to look away from the screen a lot. So I need something that I'm capable of being defensive with. That being said, though, depending on where you're starting on the tree, right? If I'm starting on the west side of the tree, defense is pretty easy to find on the tree. Whereas if you're starting on the east side of the tree, you're a little bit more dependent on your ascendancy for defense. So
I
depending
guess
on
it depends
the
on,
skill.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, and which ascendancy I'm picking. But ascendancy is always a big one. Certain ascendancies just don't interest me for some reason. I've always wanted the Scion to work. Apparently, only 0.2% of the people playing are in agreement with that one. For some reason, I've never bothered with an assassin. I know crit's huge. I know crit's really strong. I know poison's really strong. It's just not something that's really interested me. The Pathfinder's always interested me, but I'm not a flask masher. I can't mask.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that do and don't. How about you? What's the next thing after you've scratched that itch, which of course could be skill specific or ascendancy specific, mechanic specific? What's next for you?
For me, it's probably okay. So if it's skill related, so if I've figured, okay, this is the skill I want to play with or test or whatever,
Yeah.
it's almost always going to be my starting class. And sometimes it's not even a decision yet on ascendancy.
Hmm.
So there are times where I'll get closer to like 30, 35, like where I'm ready to start doing my run to ascendancy before I'll actually make a decision in there. Because usually, so the thing is, one thing that I love about the game is there are so many people out there that just know so much
Yeah.
about it. And if I have a skill in my head that I'm going, man, I'm really not totally sure how I would make this work or where my best direction is, I love that I can go like check out POE Ninja and just see like, hey, of the player base and people that go, hey, I'm using this as my main skill. What are the top like 5 or 10 ascendancies that people tend to be leaning towards?
Yeah.
It gives me a bit of a direction just because, like I said, there are a lot of people that play this game way more than I get to.
Yeah.
So it gives me sort of a direction. I'm not a big fan of just following straight up a guide. I think people should, because I think some of the guides, especially if you're new into the game, even if you played the game forever, actually, I think guides are awesome. The fact that you can, it has some help, so you don't feel lost.
Yep.
But I like to see, if I'm feeling a little unsure, I'll take a look at something like POE Ninja and the particular skill that I'm looking at. Sometimes it's not the most helpful because I'm maybe playing around with a skill that's not very popular. But then I can at least look at maybe 3 or 4 ideas, take a quick look at the ascendancies, and I almost always have an idea in my head of which starting class I'm going to go. And so then I
Okay.
don't like to waste time in POB. And I know
No, I
that
hear
we're
you.
different in that way. I want to just play,
Hmm.
and then I tend to figure it out as I'm going, because that's another thing that's really different between you and I. I very rarely will use whatever that plan skill is in my head while I'm leveling.
Yeah.
There's a few skills that work for that, but
Yeah.
it's not often that I'll level with the skill that I'm planning on playing at the
You're
end.
trying to get to end game as fast as possible, whereas I like to use the skills, if especially if the skill's available early on. I like to use the skills I'm intending on using, and I like to see them progress, even if they're crappy to level with. I like to see them improve as I go along and as I get the different supports. But explain this insanity to everyone else here: how you can pick a starting class and have no idea what ascendancy you're planning on doing. Even if you haven't, even if you're choosing between two, how do you how do you choose you're going to be a marauder and not even know which of the three you're going to be? How do you even pick your starting path? You have 4, 5, 6 starting paths. How do you do it?
I I don't know. I mean, we've played for a really long time. I'm relatively comfortable with the tree based on, certain starting classes and having an idea of where I'm going to go. And the one thing is, especially if it's not your very first character, it's not super hard to adjust your tree a bit. If I have a good idea, like, okay, I'm going to be heading towards Resolute Technique, or I'm going to be heading towards Avatar Fire, all right, if I know a direction I'm going to go, I don't have a real hard time of planning that tree out as I go. Like, there's quite often as I start my character, I'll pop up POB just so I have like maybe my first 30 points in there, so I have an idea of sort of where I'm going to fill the tree out in the beginning, just so I'm either not dying all the time or I have some damage that's going to at least help me. But
But you've at least chosen like attack or spell or minion before that point, right? Like you've committed to
right,
certain aspects of your build, haven't you?
sure. Well, I would still be leveling with something that's relevant to what the thought in my head is of what I'm going to use at the end game skill. I, I've had lots of builds before in the past where I've gotten to end game and just been like, it didn't work. That's not happened as much anymore. But that's just because I've found ways to alter builds. If I've gotten to end game and been like, yeah, you know what, this skill just did not work, but I know I could turn into this skill, and I could, the supports are relatively similar and I can get good gear. I think
Yeah.
one of the hugest difference between both of us, though, when I get to end game, and even as I'm leveling, I will buy stuff.
Mm.
Without a doubt, this was the first league where I played solo self found. I almost got to 90. It was a real big struggle for me. But
A
when
fun
I'm
struggle.
when I'm when I'm at end game, I will buy gear. I will go, okay, this unique is going to crush my build. I can get these stats on this rare that are just going to really put me over the top, which when you have good gear, it's a little harder to have a bad build.
Totally. Yeah. I like the solo self found aspect. And because I play my guides, I like to see how they progress without the gear. You know what I mean? Just with whatever drops. I find that important as a guide writer, but I also enjoy the solo self found aspect, even if I'm playing with other people. But there is also the, not the expectation or pressure, I guess, but when you're playing with someone else, you want to be able to keep up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Both in battle. In Do we say that in battle? It's gameplay, isn't it? It's in gameplay.
In
Both
battle, it's fine.
into war in battle, and then also just in speed as well. You don't want to be carried all the time as something drops, and then it's your buddy that gives you the drop, so it's not really solo self found anyway.
Yeah, and to that point, and we won't get into it too much, but one of the struggles for we've both found, the game is still not very well made for multiplayer. And we, again, I don't want to get into that because that's a whole nother conversation we can have.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't we've had conversations before where we want to make builds together or play together, and I've said, like, don't make your build around me,
Yeah.
because it's really hard to play this game
And then I screw
in a
you
group.
over because I always love curses, and then I take away your curse that gives you leech that you need, and then I just screw it all over. But
Yeah,
so okay, so to kind of specifics, like you mentioned that you go to notables, right? You've got like Resolute Technique or Avatar Fire on your mind, so you kind of gauge in a path, right? You've already decided in a way that you're going to be doing some sort of attack or some sort of spell base.
sure.
Um, what how do you branch off from that? Like, for example, when do you decide what type of defense your build is going to have? Because that would also determine, of course, at some point you have to determine how much damage you're getting from the tree or how much you're going to be getting from your items, right?
Yeah, I know you probably don't totally like this answer either, but
I don't
that's
like
not my
any of your answers.
that's not a huge focus for me either. I mean, the defense is a
It's
relatively
like we're
simple.
playing two different games.
defense is a relatively simple decision once you've made your decision of where you're starting on the tree. I don't tend to build any crazy hybrid builds. I'm not going to make a marauder that's evasion.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make I don't tend to make any sort of weird pathing or choices for that. So I don't really have a big focus. I'm trying to think. With the Juggernaut, it was a little easier because I had built this guy in past leagues, so I had an idea already in my head, and I knew that I was going armor and endurance charges. So when I get a little bit higher up in level, then I might start to look into like exactly where I want. I use regrets, like as I get up into like my later, build,
Yeah.
I'll repath and replan my, my outlook on the tree, but I can't even think of a focus as I'm leveling. I really can't. I
So,
tend to
okay.
just like hit the button and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going in that direction.
Okay, so then let's think of it this way. Do you have certain numbers you look for? Like if you were to use POB, path of
Sure.
building, if you were to use a program like that, do you have
Which I
certain
do.
numbers? Yeah, of course, but definitely not like others. You use it to be like, okay. Whereas other people are like sweating trying to get that extra percentage out of
Well,
POB.
it's funny you say that because it's one of the struggles I have sometimes answering your questions because you'll be like, is X amount of damage good for this skill? And I'm like, sure. Can you kill stuff?
So is there a certain percent, is there a certain number you look for? Let's say you're starting, like we've used the Marauder a few times as an example. So let's stick with the west
Sure.
side of the tree. You're going health. Is there a certain percentage of increased life you have to have on the tree? Obviously, every build is different, right? Like in terms of defense, right? If you have a lot less defense, you want more life. But you never want no damage mitigation. But what is there a certain number, a certain lifeline? Like is it 150%, 175% increased life? Is there something you look for in that regard?
I guess again it would come down to the whatever the build was that I was playing. I obviously want to push those percentages as high as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have a set number. I mean, I wouldn't want to be playing like 140%, life build. I would like to be pushing that up to like 170 probably
Okay.
at
Hey, well
least.
look at you saying numbers and coming up with
But
answers.
but that would be more me probably looking at it afterwards, like once I'm
Yeah,
into
but
end game and then going, okay, why, my health pool's a little low. Quite often what I'll do is I'll import my character into POB
mhm,
and then play with it.
yeah,
I find it really hard to do it the other way around, where I'm developing something in Path of Building, which I love Path of Building, but it's not natural to me to be doing
yeah,
a skill tree without playing the game and actually like getting a feel for how this tree is working. And I think that's why I have a hard time sometimes answering your questions is because I'm going, well, I'm in my head, I'm leveling, I'm getting to end game, I'm trying this stuff out. I can pull it into POB and see what my damage is, but I don't make the build. I know a lot of people have like 1 billion shaper damage, and I wouldn't even know what that like, okay, cool.
yeah,
Is that good or
yeah. No,
what
for
about
sure.
you? Do you have like certain numbers you're looking for?
Um, yeah. For me, the biggest number is offense because my builds have to protect me. You know what I mean? As a player, like I'm always building defense first for me because of what I've already described, zoning out and like catching up, and especially if I'm playing co-op. Like I like you, I like to say, don't plan your builds around me. So you come up with this crazy like 20 projectile. What was that? Green skill you used? You had an MTX for it that just flooded the screen. Oh, what was it? It was like that bouncing lava ball. What was it?
Yeah, it was a Magmor, was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, I say don't plan your builds around me. You use this crazy skill with an green MTX that I can't even see the screen on, and you've got like
My whole goal
40
is
of
just to
these.
make you puke.
And it worked almost. And so anyway, I have to be able to protect. I need to live while I'm not looking at the screen. While you kill the boss, I need to live. And so defense is always first for me, and I need to figure out how I'm going to be playing defensive if I'm a necromancer, right? Or if I'm going CI, I need to make sure that I have a lot of energy shield, right? And and I love my curses. So enfeeble's normally a very big way for me to provide my damage mitigation. But defense is the number that I need to focus, or sorry, offense is the number I need to focus on because defense is my priority on the tree. So I always need to make sure that my let me give you an example. My Righteous Fire guide that I have, a lot of people refer to it as basically God mode, right? Like you're not gonna die. Um, but there are people that are like, so how do I squeak more damage out of this? Some of these battles are lasting too long, and so you come up with ways like you're dual wielding scepters instead, or you use flammability instead of enfeeble. So I like to provide myself with a few options, but I'm always a defense first guy for myself.
Hmm.
I want to live,
Do you have
and then I'll
numbers that
figure
you
it.
aim for?
Life, I hate being below 170% life on any life build. Normally, though, because I'm trying to squeak out damage for my builds, I'm normally at 170 or 175. For energy shield, I don't really do hybrid builds. It's not that there's anything against them. I've never really gotten around to doing one. Not recently, anyway. So for my chaos inoculation build, um, I really hate doing CI with any lower than 250%. Yeah. Yeah, I think those are my two there for sure. For sure. And then when it comes to damage, that's in game. In game.
Sure.
Because there's just so many factors. So many factors. Like on paper, a build can look fantastic or horrible, but then it plays the complete opposite, right? Because you have such an optimization on paper, especially if you use a program that's as great as Path of Building, even though it doesn't have everything available. There's just so much that's circumstantial that it's only until you're in game do you see how efficient it actually is. And then, of course, you have to actually be able to apply it. Like I was just fighting the Redeemer today, and with my CI build, and like I don't even know what's happening in the build because I just keep running in circles. And to me, that build is just it's stay out of the swirly thing fight. That's all I do. So I'm just holding down Vortex all the time. I don't care about anything else, any other circumstance. I'm just eventually she's going to die with Dot. That's how it goes. You know what I mean? And so you can't apply all circumstances you want to be applied at all points when you're playing. So
Hmm.
anyway, what about weapons? Weapons. How do you how dependent are your builds on items? So maybe not just weapons, but of course you want your good mods, right? Like you want high life rolls or high ES rolls on all of your gear, right? And you want damage where, on your weapons and everything else, right? You're trying to squeak it out, but how dependent are your builds on gear?
Dependent, probably zero. Well, like I don't plan around that I need to have this particular item.
Yeah.
Obviously, weapons,
Yeah.
since, well, I mean, we talked about this in one of our really early episodes this league. Uh, they play a huge role in leveling. And then obviously in damage end game, especially with attack skills.
Yeah, definitely
Uh,
attack skills, yeah.
It's been a noticeable difference, at least for me. But I don't. In when I get into the end, that's when I'm min maxing a little bit. I'm not super anal about it, but I will go on to like the trade site and start finding the stuff that I like. But for most builds, there's not a huge thought into exact equipment until I get closer to the end game. There might be like an idea of like, oh, this unique would be fun to play with, but I don't tend to build around uniques because there's too many of them, and some of them they sound cool and then they're just not great.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Let me give, how for something like for sure attack skills you just want a high percentage of physical attack damage or whatever elemental attack damage and then a flat base damage as well. What about something like if you were to build a righteous fire build, right? It's eating away 90% of your life, or I mean 70% if it's on energy shield, but if you were to do an RF build, would you design your tree that you don't need the gear to sustain righteous fire, or would you be dependent on gear to help maintain it for circumstance?
You and I look at righteous fire way different because you
Yeah,
like to go
yeah,
righteous fire in a way that's like not yeah. If I was, and I've done righteous fire, super fun,
and a very good job.
I
Yeah,
would be way more focused on my gear.
yeah,
The tree makes a big difference as well, but I would just imagine, just thinking off the top of my head, I would think that most righteous fire builds cover, if you went a righteous fire life build, I would bet the trees are very similar for most builds.
yeah,
I wouldn't think that there's a huge variance in the trees just because of the way righteous fire works and how you typically build it.
yeah.
But the gear for me would be a really big part of it.
So that would be an exception to how you would normally make
Yeah,
your
for
build.
sure. I mean, Righteous Fire is a pretty unique skill. I also have zero interest in a long drawn out fight just because I didn't want to focus on the gear. And again, that's a big difference between us because I'll buy the stuff
Yep.
to make sure that I can crush that content.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wish the entire POE world wishes that they could make builds like you, that they could just,
I
instead
don't
of
think so. I think a
needing to
lot of people
plan their.
love POB.
Oh, I agree. I think a lot of people play Path of Building more than they play Path of Exile.
Hmm.
I have people that follow my guides that they just love leveling, right? And they'll play, and then they'll go into Path of Building. They'll do this. They'll try this idea. They'll take it to maps. Sweet. Okay, I think that was working. Okay, now let's try a new build idea. And that's something that Path of Exile does a fantastic job at. The endless. It really is an infinite amount of build ideas, and when they're constantly rebalancing things, sure, there's some things that might get left behind, but their intent isn't for that. Their intent is that every skill is viable, right? I mean, remember when they were reintroducing melee, they were like, hey, and maybe someone will use glacial hammer again, right? They're trying to make everything relevant to have all those skills with all these ascendancies, and they're adding, what is it, 18 more ascendancies, something like that. What was it, 19?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Like the build possibilities are infinite. But I think though, there's a lot of people that wish they could on the fly make a build like you. So I think you do a really good.
I think you could do it. I think you don't give yourself enough credit for that. And I would say the main reason that it's even possible for, it's not like my builds are all great and I do have to adjust a lot of them as I get to the end game. But once you have a relatively good idea of how the tree is laid out, which is why leagues where they do huge shifts to the tree are like my bane. Because I know the tree, I understand the tree. So when all of a sudden you go like, you know what? I remember a couple leagues ago, I hadn't paid attention to the change they did. I got straight into the kind of character that I was thinking I was going to play, and I got to a part of the tree where I was like, what happened?
What
Like, what, this
the?
wasn't, this didn't look like this before." So, uh, yeah, I think the more you just play with the tree, you get more used to it. But I think Path of Building, and I really, in the end, I've said it to Ethan tons because he loves to build his own builds. I think checking out guides is super useful for players, whether you're just starting or you've been playing forever. I think they're awesome. I think they're they're good for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we should move on to our kind of our last point as we're getting.
Yeah, we'll have to continue this later because that's only like a third of the questions I want to ask, but this will be our longest episode yet. So
Yeah, we'll do like a multi-part making builds.
yeah.
So I feel like this section at least won't be super long, but we've been trying to cover each of the videos that GGG has been putting out from different speakers at ExileCon and the different things that they let a lot of developers and people related to the game speak about. And so this one was creating game effects in Path of Exile
Mm-hmm.
with Ivan. And I'll start because just like last episode, you wrote quite a bit more than I did. So my takeaway from it was I think he's cool, and again, I like what he does. This video for me was not the most enjoyable to watch. It's weird. I didn't see this one while I was there either, so I don't know when these ones happened that I missed. It's just a little weird to me, but so it was a fine one. We'll link it in the show notes, hopefully, and it made me laugh thinking about this is why some of the skills are just annoyingly filling my screen up because I was watching him do some of the design thinking, oh my God, I would just never stop. Like you just start tacking stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff, and all of a sudden these effects could become ginormous and
Yeah.
what they are right now. I laughed a little bit at one point because some guy and girl were recorded talking about doing karaoke, going to
Just from the
karaoke.
audience.
Yeah, in the audience, which was
I
a little
didn't know.
weird.
That's awesome.
And then the question part again was really good on his episode, but for me it was not the most exciting thing. I was impressed that he did it live, like he did, a lot of the demo of how he makes skills live.
Yeah, he actually made a skill effect live, like
Yeah,
you saw the screen and his tool, and yeah.
yeah, it could have been played at 2 times speed, and I would have been fine. But it is cool. Again, it's not really fair to them because I feel like sometimes they're put out to like
Yeah.
talk about something that's so integral to the game. It's such a cool part of the game, but it's not always the most exciting to be able
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Hey Ivan, I want you to talk about how you make skill effects and just effects in general for the game. Go.
And you need to do it for you have a 2-hour window.
Yeah. Don't forget to make them laugh. No pressure.
What'd you think of it?
I liked it. But it wasn't, sometimes like I think I was referencing one of the couch interviews that was done so you wouldn't have seen it live during Exile Con, where it was just a conversation between 3 of the artists and the interviewer, but you learned a lot about the actual game, and that's where I learned about the Haunted Mansion and all that kind of stuff. Like, you learn a lot of really cool gameplay stuff as a gamer. This one's called Creating Game Effects in POE, and that's what it is, right? So, but there wasn't a lot of information there that would interest a gamer. It would interest somebody who's into creating visual effects, so somebody who's used to using those tools. So I didn't find it as personally as interesting as others, but though with my experience and my resume in the gaming industry, seeing how much effort and time and detail with the specific tools that they use that go into every single effect that we're just so used to skimming by, like the specific one that he made a live demo for, he made how an attack looks, a spell looks from one of the bosses. And he made that live, and he went through all the details of how you change the shape and the color and how you layer all the different aspects to it. And so again, that's not the part that really interests me in games, but it reminded me about how crazy the amount of things that can go wrong in a game are before it's released. Like, I remember once when I was testing, what was it? I think it was NBA Street, like way back in the day, one of their like arcade NBA games. And I was playing, I did a slam dunk, and every time I slam dunk, all of a sudden, I don't know what the terms are, but all of a sudden my player would go from like looking like a cartoon basketball player to being like an explosion of, I don't know, like colors. And it would just be like lines shooting everywhere, and my whole screen went crazy and I couldn't see anything, and then the game would crash. And just like one little thing that would happen would send all this effort and all these particles all over the board. And so it's when they do that, and in a game with Path of Exile, where you have so many different visual effects, whether it's the environment or skills that are happening or MTXs, like just an infinite amount of things happening, even like how a unique item looks with a skill MTX on top of it, or an item MTX on top of it. So much can go wrong. And so I think even if it's not something that interests you, watch the video, because the amount of time that's put into that one skill would kind of help you appreciate how, even though it seems like there's a lot of bugs in the game, it'll help you appreciate how little bugs there are and how few bugs there are in the game, I guess. You know what I mean? How hard it is to just test all of that. But there were a couple other things that I actually quite liked. A lot of the times when you're interviewing like an artist or a developer, they'll reference tools that they use by name. But to me as a gamer, that doesn't mean anything. But it was neat to actually see in the live demo the tool that they were actually using. So it was kind of neat. Like, I mean, I don't remember the name of the tool, but it was just neat to actually see the tool in use, to see kind of the freedom they had, along with some of the limitations that they might have. What else do we have here? Oh, yeah, he had a kind of a cool comment. He said that a lot of the times they tweak effects after release, because they'll go through quite a rigorous process of back and forth, back and forth. So, okay, this is good. Okay, this department says this needs to be fixed. This department says this needs to happen. Okay, it needs to be shortened, or this part needs to be increased. And so they'll go through, and then finally the effect that they're trying to portray will get released. But then when you apply that to all the other skill effects and all the other monster effects that are happening in the environment, then it looks like a big mess again. It was really cool to hear that they make adjustments to those, not necessarily as bug things or things that go into a patch report, but they make adjustments to effects after release. So I thought that was kind of neat, right? They're always thinking about that, thinking about the user.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. So one actually personal thing between you and I that I remembered during all the effort that they're putting in and the constant tweaks that they're making. It's hilarious. When Justin and I play together, and when you sometimes you kill that enemy and then you hear that poosh, and that big fireball is chasing you down. When you're in co-op, you have no idea who it's chasing, but basically that big fireball's coming after you, and it's when it hits you, then it's going to explode. Well, when Justin and I play together, it's always me. It never chases Justin.
It's true.
And it I used to, in that same regards, whenever Justin and I would play together, there's those, I forget what they're called, but they're basically the purple enemies that can have something happen as they die. They can get stronger, or they'll get like Soul Eater, or sometimes when those purple enemies die, they'll leave a big AoE of lightning or fire on the ground that in a tiny bit of time it'll explode and kill you. Well, I used to never ever be able to see those, and I would die all the time. We'd kill them and I'd think we're safe and I'm looting away and I'm dead. And Justin would
It was
just
hilarious.
oh my goodness, Justin would laugh at me all the time and I didn't even see it. Like I can barely see the screen as it is, and I'm taking like 15 clicks trying, because I keep missing, right? My eyesight's not the best anymore with this head stuff. So I'm like 15 clicks trying to pick up this one rare item that I'm trying to identify. And then I'm dead. I don't even pick up the item. And he would laugh and laugh and laugh. And then one day, one of the patches, I don't know, it might have even been before the 3.0 patch, they changed those ground effects that those purple enemies would leave to be so much brighter. I can see them like crazy now. It is awesome. So there's a lot that I appreciate that they do that we don't really know that they do.
I feel like that video would have been a whole lot better if like the almost most of the whole thing was the question period, because I think it was cool to hear him answer the questions of players that had questions.
Yeah, Q&A is always awesome.
Yeah, it's been my favorite part of the last two videos that we've watched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah. Well, I think that that just about wraps up episode 11 of Forever Exiled, the Path of Exile podcast. Thanks again for everybody joining us. I am Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wad.
Ouch. Make sure to check out the show notes if you're looking for any information about today's episode. There might be some links in there. You can find us at www.foreverexiled.com and on my favorite social media thing on Twitter at foreverexiled82. Peace.